One of my favorite things is just going on the internet and finding out what's new in the progressive rock scene. Whenever I'm doing this, it's always kind of a hit and miss or a mixed grab bag, and that's kind of what I love. You're always shifting through quite a lot of just kind of meh, but every once in a while you get a real gem, and that's what we find here. Evership's self-titled album. So Evership was this brainchild of Shane Atkinson. This guy has been around music for quite a while, starting in like the mid to late 80s. This guy's been producing and kind of recording his own stuff. Coming into this century and even this decade, he decided to finally pursue and put down a lot of those musical ideas that he had recorded or written along the way, and that's what we find in Evership. I was very pleasantly surprised with the atmosphere of this. It has been quite a while since I've heard such a great neo-prog effort. And so the one thing that I love about Evership is the environment. I love just the atmosphere and the world that this music really builds. That being said, like a lot of neo-prog, there's nothing too groundbreaking on this album, and there is a lot of borrowed techniques and borrowed styles on this. The vocals at times sound very much like a Queen style with a lot of overlay of self-vocalizations. Again, that being said, the singing on this is fantastic and phenomenal. You know that this guy has been around music for a long time. This being the debut album, the singing sounds so polished and so realized, and that's really hard to do, even with a lot of very established bands, so I've got to tip my hat for that. The other thing is, a lot of these musical styles and a lot of these musical motifs and themes don't sound 100% original all the time. There is a lot of originality on here, but every once in a while I keep thinking, you know, I kind of hear what's going on here, and I know where the source material is, and I almost wish there's almost like a list of references that you would see on, say, a periodical journal or something like that. And much like a good neo-prog, I do like the balance of the lightness and the darkness that we find on here. I like how heavy-hitting a lot of these songs feel, especially with that first song of Silver Light. It really kind of just grabs the attention of the listener, and it's very bombastic at times. And talking about just the spanning of decades at which this work was being constructed, on the second song of A Slow Descent into Reality, this is really felt because there's a lot of points on here that feels like it could have been out of the 80s and as well as within the 90s. And I'm wondering if this was one of the songs that was constructed within that kind of a period. Because a lot of those sounds I'm listening to, I'm like, this would have fit really well within the culture of like the late 80s and early 90s. And it's on this song that I love the environment of this song, but on one hand it almost sounds like it's dating itself, because I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, a lot of these have already been covered in the past, so in the one hand it feels old, but it also kind of feels like it had been constructed in that time, so it also feels a little bit timeless as well. It's a really strange dichotomy within that sound and within that music, because I don't exactly know where to place it. And the third song of Evermore. This is an interesting track in that it really lifts quite a bit from Queen. The first part is a very sweet-like, very quiet piece, and then we just kind of get hit in the head with overlaid vocalizations there. But the one piece that I love, and the one that I keep coming back to with this song, is just the use of the guitar work within that second half of this song. I love that. It's not an overly complicated guitar work, but that's what I like. I like when a guitar piece and a guitar solo is simple but very intriguing and very meaty. The next song of Ultima Thule. Thule? Yeah, Ultima Thule. This is another one of those interesting songs, and a lot of these songs can be classified as interesting, but this one is a little bit more on the stranger side, especially at that beginning part of the track where it sounds like it's a little bit of a reversed effect there within the introduction. But the one thing that kind of takes away from the song a little bit is a lot of the false starts of this song, and this song also has a lot of, I guess, disjointed parts. Some of the moments on this album overall, the transitions between pieces of the music doesn't flow quite 100%, and I wonder if part of that is just how long the songs have been tinkered with. It doesn't really take away anything from the music that is presented here. And unlike a lot of the other songs where there's, peaks and valleys, Ultima Thule, it's a gradual build throughout the entire song to a very, very pleasant climax, and I really like that. At the end, it just feels like you're flying through the landscape of this world that's being built. The star performer and the jewel within the crown is definitely the second last song of the Flying Machine. This guy, it's so well realized and very, very well executed as well. Unlike a lot of the other stuff on this album, this I can clearly recall very, very vividly. Whereas the other ones are much like a dream, right? Like, it's really hard to recall certain movements. Like, you can pinpoint really crystal clear moments, but the overall narrative of a song is harder to retain. Within the Flying Machine, though, this one is crystal clear from start to finish. It's got a very specific beginning, middle, and end piece. And I love each of these segments. I love how the beginning, you're just kind of waking up from that dream-like state where you have this epiphany and you don't quite have that realized. And it's almost a very good allegory for the album as a whole as well. Like, this guy had a dream and he needs it to be realized. And everybody's just like, it'll never work. What happens if you fall? But he's just going to go for it. He is going to take it on as well. So I love the beginning of this song. It's very pleasant and very airy, a little bit dark as well, but a very well-constructed dreamscape almost. And then it comes into the actual dream sequence, the second part, and this is more of just like an atmosphere type of a song, where we have a little bit of audio clips, kind of that narration of it'll never work, what are you going to do, what happens if you fall, and then we finally have that lift, that final sequence. And I love that essence of what if you fall down? What if it stops working? What if things just don't go your way? And I like that allegory. Just when you apply it with anything, it might be going well for a while, but what if it doesn't? What if it just starts to fall? And that's when you figure it out. And I love that harmonizations, and I love how, what if you fall down is what breaks the dream sequence, but it doesn't shift completely into it. It's a little bit of that grinding clutch a little bit as well, but once you get into that last sequence, which takes up the last bulk of the track there, getting through that and going into the song, it's just a really great way of ending this album as a whole. And the final track of Approach, it really doesn't do anything. It's just kind of a little bit of noise, a little bit of music just to kind of close the curtains. It's a very, very short track, and one that for the first couple of listens, I didn't even realize it was a track at all. So yeah, overall, I love this album. And the more I listened to it, the more I did discover little avenues and nooks and crannies within it. So this is one that needs to be listened to multiple times. I would definitely say pick it up if you can, because this deserves to be in your collection. And the front cover of this album really harkens back to that 70s prog. Like, it almost looks like an Eloy mixed with a Kansas album. I really like the artwork on this. It was a perfect fitting for this album. So that's about it. What did you guys think of Evership by Evership? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Give it a spin and let me know what you thought by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out. For I see that